You guys might have seen going around the last, I think about a day and a half, a report regarding the Pixel 9 talking about quote unquote what it costs to make that device, and it is quite a low number. And I think that because of that, we are seeing quite a few news articles, posts, comments, etc., sort of lambasting Google for selling a phone that cost them about $400 to make for around $1,000. We're going to dive into this though and take a look at some of this information. It actually does come from this link here. I'll put it in the description. It is paywalled, but I'm going to show you the graphics that are on the article like everyone else is doing so that we can kind of break things down. This is the original graphic. I used Google Lens to translate it. This is the Pixel 9 Pro. And as you can see here, it is $999. The cost price is down about 11% from last year, although we do have to keep in mind that we are likely comparing the Pixel 9 Pro to the Pixel 8 Pro, and these are not the same device. The Pixel 8 Pro's equivalent is the Pixel 9 Pro XL, so there really isn't an equivalent to the Pixel 9 Pro. So the 11% decrease may or may not be worth paying attention to, and I don't really think it's all that relevant. The main semiconductor, that would be the Tensor processor, they're saying that it is about $80 a piece. The display is about $75 a piece, which is actually interesting because it is a brighter display. Now, it's not radically different, it's just brighter. And maybe by doing that, not changing a whole lot besides that brightness, they were able to reduce the cost of that display year over year, $75. And the camera hardware also went down 31%. Now, there are some changes to the camera hardware. I think that the ultra wide and the telephoto are both technically different sensors than last year. I think the ultra wide is a smaller sensor, but maybe a wider aperture, something like that. So there's not like a huge change, but they did manage to get, potentially very similar, if not better performance with some slightly less expensive hardware, which I feel like is a good thing for Google at least, but is it a good thing for the consumers? That kind of remains to be seen. But we have more information to look at than just this, because they also had the iPhone 16 Pro broken down as well. And I'm not going to go through all the details on this one just because personally, I don't care a ton. I'm not a big iPhone person. The big stuff that matters is it's the same price, $999, but their bill of materials is apparently $568. Now, I do find it a little bit difficult to believe that their processor, the A18 Pro, is $135. They've been making these things for a really long time. You would think price costs would be coming down a little bit, but still $135 seems a little steep to me. Let's just take it at face value, though. We'll just run with these numbers. $406 for the Pixel 9 Pro, $568 for the iPhone 16 Pro. Luckily, these two phones are very, very similar. 6.3-inch displays. They're basically the same size. So if you just, again, take this at face value, it would appear that Google has a much larger margin, more profit to be made by selling their phones. But we do need to dig just a little bit deeper than just that. And the reason is because there's more to a phone than just the bill of materials. There's the actual, assembly, the manufacturing process, which makes a really big difference. But there's also research and development. There's advertising, marketing. There's your whole supply chain, the distribution. All of this stuff makes a really big difference to what, at the end of the day, your profit is when you sell a phone. And all of these things can 100% bridge the gap between the Pixel 9 Pro and the iPhone 16 Pro. Yes, the bill of materials, still interesting, still something to potentially consider if you care about this sort of thing. But in terms of whether or not Google is simply delivering a subpar product in order to basically juice their profits, I don't think that there is anywhere near enough data here to support that. And given how many phones Apple sells versus how many phones Google sells, yes, they did apparently just have their best month ever, maybe their best quarter ever with the Pixel 9. Their market share in North America jumping from 5% to 12%, maybe the highest it's ever been. they still do not ship a fraction of what Apple actually does ship. And that is going to help Apple. That should make things cheaper for them. They have such a well-established process going. So I don't think that it's one of these situations where it's being sort of portrayed in maybe some news articles, some comments, some things like that, that Google is just trying to make more money per phone. No, I don't think it's that simple. I think that they're trying to probably have a very similar, at the end of the day, profit margin as Apple because of all of these other factors. Another big factor in this, though, discounts and promotions. We're looking at the Google Play Store right now because if you look in the top right at the little Google Play Rewards button and you click on that, let's go over to Perks and scroll all the way down. You'll see get 30% off select Pixel phones. So rather than paying $1,000 for the Pixel 9 Pro, you're going to be paying closer to $700 for the Pixel 9 Pro, and that's going to cut into that margin dramatically. Again, I'm not a big Apple person, but to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, iPhones kind of stay the same price for a long time, right? They don't really do this sort of discounting thing as quickly as Google does. So Google absolutely has to account for their tendency to cut into their own margin with these discounts pretty quickly. So guys, hopefully that gives a more complete picture of what's going on here. I do still think that these numbers, this information is really, really interesting. Again, it may not all be perfectly accurate, but I think that it's probably roundabout the correct numbers. And that is definitely interesting to see this sort of peek behind the curtain, what goes on, what goes into these phones. But it is not some smoking gun that Google is in some way wronging the consumers. Again, I'm seeing far too many people trying to paint it. You can't just look at bill of material compared to phones and say that one is better than the other or that anything nefarious is going on. It is far more complicated than that. I will drop a link in the description down below to this stuff so you can check it out yourself. It'll also contain a link to the original article, which again is behind a paywall if you want to get access to that. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about this in those comments down below. Does this bother you at all? Is this something that you kind of understand, that you're like, yeah, it's a complicated thing, and at the end of the day, they delivered a pretty darn good phone for the same $9.99. Does it matter to you? Sound off in those comments. Subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.